Hello everyone, welcome to the very first video in the Parahack Let's Learn Sveltekit series. My name is Lawal and I'll be your tutor. This series is all about Sveltekit. I'll be taking you from a complete beginner to an advanced Sveltekit user. And fun fact, just quick fun fact drop, Sveltekit is the best meta framework out there. I just wanted to say that. Now, so this episode is going to be an introduction to Sveltekit. So if you've never used Sveltekit before, you've never heard of Sveltekit at all, this is going to be the video for you. And I do recommend you know Svelte, but I don't necessarily think you need to be an expert in Svelte. Just know the basic in Svelte, and then you can come for this video. And this entire series is going to be taught by me, and we're going to be dropping an episode every single day. So make sure you guys subscribe for that. So without wasting any more time, so you guys know I like to go straight to the point. What is Sveltekit? Well, all of us actually know what Sveltekit does, but we don't actually know what Sveltekit is. Now, Sveltekit is simply a full stack framework or a meta framework. A lot of people call it meta. I call it meta as well. For Svelte, well, so if you know React, you know React Act Next.js. If you know Next is the meta framework for React, and you know Vue Acts Next, and Next is the recommended meta framework for for Vue. And for Sveltekit or Kit, as some people just like to call it, they like calling it Kit, is the recommended and official meta framework for Svelte. It was created by the same team that created Svelte itself, and it solves a lot of problems and lets you easily build production-ready apps with Svelte. So that's why I always recommend anytime you want to build a Svelte application, go with Sveltekit. Comes with a lot of things out of the box that I tell you, you will be mind blown. So what does Sveltekit actually do, right? What do all these meta, quote-unquote, meta full stack framework, what do they actually do? What do they add to their basic framework library that makes them better? So what does Kit add to Svelte that makes it better? Well, it adds a bunch of things, right? First of all, it adds routing. So that's pretty much the primary and the most noticeable thing you would probably see when you use Sveltekit, is that it adds a very easy file-based routing to Svelte, and it also comes with server-side rendering. So you have server-side rendering out of the box by default. You have very simple and economic ways of doing data fetching, service workers. We have TypeScript integration out of the box. We have pre-rendering, and you can also use your application as a single-page application as well, and also enables you to deploy to different environments and so on. So Sveltekit basically helps you write production ready applications. So when you're writing Svelte, you can be lost a little bit because you might not know what to use for routing, or you might not necessarily know the best way to do data fetching, and Sveltekit comes in and saves you all those times of researching and looking for libraries, and just gives you all these things out of the box. And now by default, Sveltekit uses server-side rendering, but then you can transition to client-side navigation. So it works like the way all these old PHP apps work, whereas when you click on a link, it gets the data from the server every single time. But when you're using a Sveltekit application, you won't necessarily notice that, because of once the application loads, it transitions in the background to a client-side navigation so it feels like an SPA or SPA or single-page application. But what it's actually doing is actually using that multi-page application architecture in the background. So it gives you the best of both worlds and gives you the best experience. And one nice thing Sveltekit can do is run without JavaScript. So you don't actually necessarily need JavaScript to be enabled on your browser to use Sveltekit. If you are writing your Sveltekit application in a certain way, you don't necessarily need JavaScript. So that's a very nice and cool feature. And if this all sounds complicated, don't worry, I got your back. Throughout this series, I'm going to be explaining Sveltekit as easy as ABC for you. I'm basically going to hold your arms and walk you down this Sveltekit street, no problem. So first of all, how do we create a Sveltekit project? Well, it's very, very easy. We have this command that is provided to us by the Sveltekit team to create a Sveltekit project. So I'm just basically going to copy this and I will run this. So what you want to do, if you want to follow my exact steps, which I recommend so you don't run into any issues, is to download VS Code. Very easy, search on Google, download it. And then when you have VS Code, you can open a terminal. Open the terminal by using Ctrl J or Command J if you're on Mac. And when you've opened the terminal, click and paste that command and Before you can use npm, you must have Node installed. So if you don't have Node installed, go to your browser one more time, search a Node, download the current version of Node, and you can use npm. But I'm going to be using pnpm. Now, npm and pnpm are very similar, just that pnpm does it a little bit better. Using npm, there's no issue with using npm. I just prefer pnpm. If you have pnpm or you're a little bit advanced, you've been using pnpm for some while, you can go ahead and use pnpm as well. So I'm just going to click on this. And now it starts asking us some questions. So it tells us, welcome to Sveltekit, really nice. And which Svelte app template do you want to use? Now they provide us with a little demo app that we can run and see some Sveltekit features. We don't want that. What we want is go for this cleansing project. And this is just bare bones, very empty, no boilerplate, nothing. Just pretty much a bare bones scaffolding, as they say. I will click enter for that. And it tells us add type checking with TypeScript. You can go with yes, you can go with no. This is not a TypeScript tutorial. So for the people that don't want to use TypeScript, you might find it very hard to use it if I'm using it. So I'm not going to use TypeScript for this series. So I'll go with no. And then as you can see, select additional options. I would recommend you go for ESLint, also go for Prettier, and also go for Svelte 5. Now, by the time these videos and this series start getting released, Svelte 5 might have become stable and might have been released to the public, but as for now, it's just in its release candidates. I think it was perfectly fine. That's why I use them. So, but for now, it's in its release candidates. But I'm pretty sure by the time this video start getting released, it should be stable and that should be the default. But if that's not the case, just click on try the Svelte 5 preview. There's no issue there. And now we have the next step, which is to cd into that repo and then run pnpm install. So that's what I'm going to do. I'll go with cd and then the name of the application, which is my app. Up like this. And now that I am in the repo, I would run pnpm I on pnpm install. If you used npm, it would be npm install or npm I. Now you're going to have to give this a second. It does its thing, say at most a minute if you're using pnpm, and would come back after that. So my own application has installed all the dependencies and all the dev dependencies for me. And as you can see, it shows me all the things that it's installed. And what I'm going to do right now is open this workspace directly in my editor. So I'll go to open folders, go to tutorials. Now I'm showing you all of this because I want you guys to see how to do this. Some of you might be beginners. I shouldn't be showing you all this, but yeah, I don't want you to miss any steps. So I'll go to my app, which is where I downloaded all that, which is the project itself. And now I'm in my Sveltekit project. If you go to my right hand side, you'll see my Explorer. You should also be seeing this as well, but you should be seeing this in your left hand if you're using the default that it gives you. I changed my place mine in the right. And yeah, we have this. We open this properly because we're going to look at this for this introduction. So first of all, we have the nodes modules folder. This folder, ignore it, does not have anything to do with you, especially when you are a beginner. Do not touch this folder, do not delete this folder. But if anything does happen, if by mistake you delete this folder or you just come back and it disappears for some reason, basically running pnpmi or npmi would install the dependencies and put them inside this folder again. So yeah, that's for that folder. And you also have the static folder. The static folder is where we put all of our static assets like fonts and all those kind of things. And we also have the git ignore. The git ignore is for git. If you don't know what git is, just ignore this. No pun intended. And then we have Prettier ignore and Prettier whatever that is. But this basically works for Prettier, and Prettier is a kind of package that lets our code be prettier, basically. So again, just ignore both of these as well. And we have ESLint. Now ESLint, make sure we write correct JavaScript code. Leave this as well. It's not your concern. We have packages.json, and the packages.json is where we have all of our dependencies being managed. We have our scripts also being managed as well. So just ignore this as well. And I know that modern JavaScript development or modern web development has to do with a ton of folder. If you're a complete beginner, this might seem overwhelming, but I tell you, you'll quickly get used to it. You might be coming from basically HTML, CSS, and JavaScript to seeing a bunch of all these things, and you might be very confused. But all these things, they most of the time they don't have anything to do with you. They're just on their own doing their own thing. But I'm just going through all of them to let you know all know what they do. Now the PNPM lock is for the PNPM. I'm using PNPM, so you might not see this. You might be seeing the one for NPM. I've forgotten what it's called. Or if you're using Yarn, you've seen one for Yarn, whatever. And now we have the README. Now the README is actually a bit important if you want to know people, let people know what this project is about. When you deploy it to GitHub or GitLab or wherever, you can just edit this README. But I'm not going into this. Now we have the svelte config.js. This is the config file for Sveltekit. Just ignore this. We're not using this in this series. Well, at the beginning of the series, we're not using this. And we also have the vit config. Now, one thing you should know is that Sveltekit is basically a plugin built on vit or vite. So this application is actually a vite or vit. I don't know how to pronounce it. I call it vit most times, but this application is basically a vit application. So if you know vit and you love vit, you know that vit is probably the best way of building front-end applications in this modern JavaScript era. And Sveltekit realizes that, and they, instead of building a new thing like some other framework does, they built a plugin for vit, which is actually the best thing that they could have done. And yeah, as you can see, we have the Sveltekit in the plugin array. So Sveltekit is basically just a plugin for vit. Yeah. Now, the one folder we haven't actually checked is the SRC folder, and the reason why I left that for last is because of that is by far the most important folder and where you'll be doing most of your work when you are working with Sveltekit. So let's open it. We see three things here. We see two folders on one file. We see the libs folder, we see the routes folder, and we see the app.html. Now, the app.html is the default HTML file. And if you use the HTML before, basically just an HTML file that you can do basically anything you can do HTML in. What I would tell you to do is to ignore this file, except you need to do anything in here. So as you can see, we have an head tag. If you want to put a default head tag, default title, default descriptions, meta tags, OG graphs, all those kind of things, you do them here, right? So you can do them here, and we also have some things that you can edit. For example, this data, Sveltekit preload data, long name, but this is also something you can edit. But if you want to go deep and dive into this, you can go online and research about this particular file. But what I would tell you to do is to ignore this file completely and only use them or edit them when I tell you to. So just basically ignore this file. Now, for the two folders we have here, we have our libs folder and we have the routes folder. The libs folder is where we keep anything concerning components and libraries and utilities, basically things we want to use in multiple places in our applications. We put it in the libs folder, and I'll tell you why we would want to put it in the libs folder later on in this series. But yeah, like components, when you create a button and you want to use it in 5 different pages, you put it in the libs folder. And when you create a particular function you want to use in 10 different places, you put it in the libs folder as well. Now we have the routes or routes, whatever you want to call it, the routes folder. Now this routes folder is where we create our pages. Now remember, in the beginning of the introduction, I told you that Sveltekit uses something called file-based routing, which is basically a type of routing system. Whereas if you create a new folder, so for example, about, and this folder must be inside this routes folder. You can just create this about anywhere. It must be inside this routes folder. When you create this becomes a route, right? So if I go to my website /about, I will see this, right? But right now it's actually an empty folder, so I won't actually see anything. But in order for me to see something inside this about, I have to create a special file, or special type of file, and that special type of file is what you are seeing right here. This plus page.svelte. Now, if you have used JavaScript, you use some other framework, this might seem pretty weird to you. Plus page.svelte, what is that? Well, that is a special file, and this is for writing your pages. This is basically what would be outputted in your browser when you load this site up in the browser. This is again a special type of file. You can't just create this file and use for any other thing. This file is used for creating basically the pages. So the root one we have here, the one we have directly in the routes folder, is the root. So if you have a website called www.mywebsite.com, when you go to that website, this is the first one you see. This is the first thing you see right here. And if you go to www.mywebsite.com/about, you see the plus page.svelte file inside this about folder. So I hope you guys understood that. If you did not understand it, Don't worry, we would come into routing a lot more, but for now, just get that down. So for me to make this about folder work, I need to create that special file. Again, it's a special file. To create that page, you can't just name it page.svelte. It must start with plus. So plus page dot svelte. And the dot svelte part is the extension. This is how you tell the Svelte compiler. Now I don't want to go into Svelte, but this is how you tell the Svelte compiler that this is a Svelte component. But for in our case, the compiler would interact with that as a page. So I'll click on enter. Now I'll say this is the about page. Now we have like 5 or 6 more different types of special files that we can get into, but this is just a simple introduction. I don't want to go too deep into all of that. We'll have a different episode for all of that. But for now, we can have this as our about page, and I can also have this as our home page. So I'll just say h1. This is the home page. And now I can save this and I can run this server. So for me to run this server, I'll open my terminal. If you don't know how to do that, Ctrl J on Windows, Command J on Mac. And I'm using pnpm, so I'll run pnpm dev. Again, if you're using npm, it's npm run dev. If you're using yarn, it's yarn dev. And if you're using Bourne, it's whatever Bourne uses. So just click on enter. And you see your dev server up and running. So what you want to do is just control click on this, or you can also just copy it. Now this is the link you're going to use. Copy that and paste it in your browser. So I'll go to my browser and I'll basically paste that in here like this. Give it a second or so. Okay, mine didn't run, and that's simply because of the stuff probably wasn't running. Yeah, now it's running, and now you see this is the home page. And the reason why we're seeing this is because of that is what we wrote right here, and the root plus page the svelte file. Now, in order for us to get to the about page, what we can do is just go to slash about, and now we are seeing this is the about page. But what if I wanted to use that on the application? I want a button that if I click on, or a link if I click on goes to the about, and when I'm on the about, I click on that link, goes to the home page. All I can do that is very easy. See, in Sveltekit, we try to mimic the way those web standards work as much as possible. So unlike some other frameworks that tell you to import this and import that, with Sveltekit, you hardly have to be importing things. So things just work the way things are expected to work. So coming from your HTML background, when you want to create a link, how do you do that? Well, you use the A tag, correct? And you put the link, the name of the link there. So we'll say about, and in the href, I can just say slash and then the URL, which is slash about, and I can save this. Now this would work perfectly. It would actually use client navigation, so that was going to be utilizing JavaScript. But we use client-side navigation, and there will be no refresh. We use JavaScript, and it will work seamlessly. So let's check this out. Let's go back to our browser, go back to our home page, refresh this. Now we see this about. Now what I want you guys to notice when you are testing this out for yourself is to just look at the refresh button at the top of your browser. Make sure that it doesn't refresh, right? You're going to see that it's not going to refresh. So once I click on this about, you're going to see it's going to be a quick and snappy navigation without any refresh. You see that? It went to the about page without any refresh. We're actually using this A tag. So some of you are thinking that how is this possible if this is an HTML tag? Well, this is actually not an HTML tag, because of we would write it as an HTML A tag, but Svelte is a compiler, so it sees this and it does the necessary thing that it's supposed to do with this. So in our view, we can actually write things like this, and that's why Svelte is so great, because of it has a compile steps which enables us to do magic like this. So I can go back to my about page and I can have another link, that goes to the home page. I can call this home and I can save this. Now I'll go back to my browser, and now on my about page we have this home link, and when I click on it I go to the home page. On the home page I have this about link, and when I click on it I go to the about page. So that's basically it. That's basically all for this episode. I hope you guys got and understood all of that. If there was any issue, the comment sections are open. Let me have it. And on the next episode, We're going to be going deep into routing. So now I just showed you and gave you a very simple example. On the next episode, episode 2, we'll be going diving deep, a little deeper than we did into routing, and I'm going to be showing you some tips and tricks and how routing actually works. So if you love this video, as I said in the beginning, give it a like, subscribe, turn on your notification. An episode will be released every single day, so make sure that you are signed up for that. I love you guys, and I'll see you on the next one.